All right, welcome back to Fish Tank Live, presented by Van Horn Law Group and CasaBella Design Group. Seth Levitt here, joined by the man with the best hands in the live podcast business. He is OJ McDuffie. Juice, most of us missed you last week, but we're excited to have you back, brother.
Wait, man. What the hell you mean most, man?
I thought it was all, but then Juice got a little heated with our sponsor, Chad Van Horn.
Oh,
At the
that
top
dude
of the
right there, man. Man. I
I I
love
I
Chad. I
I
love
miss
Chad.
I miss OJ Mark Duffy that was the guest this.
Damn.
So that's just what I'm saying. I just miss him.
We
That's
did
my
have
buddy
Mark
now.
Clayton, aka OJ Mark Duffy, filling in for Juice. Juice needed to. You needed a week off after the Colts performance, and not that things got tremendously better with the Patriots, but
They
you're
got a
back. We're
lot better.
excited to have you
They
back.
were a lot better, Big Seth. The result wasn't better, but they got a lot better,
Fair
man.
enough. We'll discuss that for sure. Of
Hold
course,
up,
as
hold up, though.
always.
Hold up. I'm not done yet.
Okay,
I'm not done about this Mark Duffy stuff, man.
he's back. He is all the way back.
Yeah, I'm a little fired up about it. It's so crazy because I heard the show. I listened back, Chad, and you and Mark were a little too close for me, man. You know what I mean? Y'all got a little too tight while I was away.
Well, that's my newest client because I'm going to get him in the Hall of Fame. Seth made sure he had the sales pitch, and after I'm done with him, I'm going to get you in the Hall of Fame too, Juice. I'm just saying.
I'm already in the only Hall of Fame I'm gonna get in, man. Actually two Hall of Fames. My high school and Broward County. That's perfect for me, bro.
That's
Well,
two more
speaking of
than
the
me.
Broward County Hall of Fame, you're not the only Broward County Hall of Famer that's joining us tonight on Fish Tank Live.
Right.
So please welcome in award-winning South Florida Sun Sentinel columnist Dave Hyde, who I think went in 2018 in the Broward County Sports Hall of Fame, and then Juice went in 2019. Dave, you're in the tank, man.
Well, hey, I am glad to be here, right in the middle of the squabbling too. That's right, my perfect nature there. I'm
What a
Juice.
friendly
You're
fire.
not in the Penn State Hall of Fame. You're not in the Penn
No,
State Hall of Fame.
no, I don't even know. No, I'm not that I know. I don't even know if they have one, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, I don't either, but I would just assume you're in it if there is one.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
we'll start that. We'll start that campaign.
Yeah, we need to start that push for sure. As always, the producer Savak, the legendary Savak, in the house with us, and you already heard him. But the heart and soul of Van Horn Law Group, he is Chad Van Horn. He'll be here for the legal zone at the end of the show, and I'm sure we'll have some commentary along the way as well. All right. Oh wow, we got this fish tank of guests. There's problems in Miami. This isn't fun. Hector, unfortunately, you're right, and I think we're going to be talking about that a lot. So there are problems in Miami. So that's the question. I guess there's no better place to start than this. Typically on a Wednesday night show, we don't have a game tomorrow, but in this case, the Dolphins, who have I think 5 primetime games, my goodness, the schedule makers, 5 primetime games for the Miami Dolphins, not the start that you would want to see if you set up that television schedule. Dave Hyde, do the Miami Dolphins have any chance at all tomorrow night against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, last time they were in Buffalo, they played a tight game. And you see it. You see it across the NFL. One week doesn't necessarily apply to the second week. Now, if I'm betting the game, I'm not betting the Dolphins. But you say, do they have any chance? Sure they have a chance. And uh, but let's face it, they haven't won in Buffalo since 2016 for a reason. I mean, that's for a tough place to play, and it has become obviously the toughest team to play in the AFC East. So, but they need to clean up some things from the first couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, to say the least. Juice, how do you feel? You're typically the eternal optimist.
oh yeah. Oh, Big Seth, I feel like we've got a chance, man. We really do. I think, anytime you're playing against, like even last week, playing against a division opponent, it's not terribly, cold and nasty in Buffalo. They've got a chance to really, kind of get off the snide. I think they figured a few things out last week, even though New England is obviously not up to the caliber of a Buffalo Bills team is
Yeah.
at this point. Buffalo's got a couple key injuries on defense that could help us out a lot. They still have Josh Allen, though. I mean, that's been our biggest problem with Buffalo Bills, has been Josh Allen and how we handle his ass, So I just always feel like we've got a fighter's, a puncher's chance, to get a dub up in there. But things have to happen, things have to happen for your football team. And maybe they figured a few things out. And, I think when we get to, our last segment, we're talking about, I tried to tell you, I'm gonna try to tell you something about, possibly a solution to our ineptitude. Is that a right word, Dave?
That hits. That's about as perfect as it gets, Juice. That's showing your high level education at Penn State right there.
Yeah, I trust my writers, man. You and Seth know all the words and how to use them the right way.
I've had to use ineptitude and dismal, despairing several times over the last 25 years with the Dolphins, unfortunately.
Oh, golly, Dave, thanks for reminding us. So speaking of Dave Hyde and using words like ineptitude, so Shake is in the chat here and said, the Larry Bird of beat writers. I love Hyde. He keeps it real. Hurts my feelings all the time, but I don't think he does it on purpose. He's just trying to report the news. The Larry Bird.
Larry Bird. Now, I wish I shot like Larry Bird, but if he's referring to someone so white you can almost see through them, that's about accurate. Okay. But to his point, I wish I could write good things about the Dolphins. It's how I used to tell the Patriots, and now I should tell the Bills. You guys write books about your team. I write obituaries about my team. And that's sort of, it's no fun going down on the elevator with people who are, generally good people at almost the low point of their careers a lot of times. And so, but here we are again.
So, with that in mind, David, I'm going to go a little off script here. Well, I guess one will segue into the other, but you write what you feel. You've never pulled punches. I don't think you take shots intentionally. I think there are some guys who do. I've always felt you're fair and you write what you believe. And I also think, and people don't see this, but I think you research your opinions. You bounce ideas off of folks. We've had conversations in the past about certain things. But when you have to write something about somebody, you've been, I'll call it what it is. You've been hypercritical of Chris Greer for a couple of years. You've questioned why he's still in the position that he's in. I think now the questions are arising with regards to Mike McDaniel. When you have to write something like that, and then as you just said, jump in the elevator with him in the press box, going downstairs to the locker room, or sitting in front of him the next day after you wrote something, in a press room and ask those questions. Is that awkward? Is it uncomfortable? Are you past all of that? Like, what's that dynamic like?
Sure, it's awkward. You write something, and then you. Generally, my rule of thumb is I try, if I write something critical, I show up the next day. So if they want to have a word at me, they get a chance. It's more difficult in today's era than it used to be, where you could, after the practice, make sure you walk in front of them or say something to them, and they could say something back to you. Now everything's live and on camera, and it doesn't really lead to a lot of good. Everybody's more guarded when you're on the camera, of course. So, but is it fun? No. But sometimes, look. I know what my role is. I'm playing my role. My role as a columnist, and as a columnist of South Florida sports, when things are bad, or you got to say they're bad. When people in multi-million-dollar roles that they're the upper 1% of their job aren't doing their job, and I feel that way. I got to call it out. I learned a long time ago. Don't try to fake your feelings. Oh, this is a nice guy, I'm not going to say this, or this isn't a good guy, so I'm going to. No, it's. I try to let the game come to me, so to speak, and at some point, you just got to let it roll.
Yeah, you know what, Big Seth, I love that about Dave too. Dave is a guy that he'll write critically if he has to, or write positively if he has to, but he'll show up. You know what I mean? He'll be in the locker room and face the people that he's talking about, bro. Like, and that was always the thing that I respected about any writer. We had some guys that were kind of ghost writers to me, back in the day. They talk critically, but then they wouldn't come in the locker room, and face the guys while they're in there, bro. And that's, for me, and Dave knows, man, I'm not the biggest fan of reporters, but I do respect, a handful of them that handle their business that way, and then we have to handle our business though. We shouldn't give them anything critical to write about. We should give them something positive to write about. Like he's talking about, we're all woe is us, but hell, he hasn't been able to write a book about how good the Dolphins have been either. So we're messing up his life.
That's why he keeps writing those 72 books, Juice. That's what it is.
Yeah, I have to go back in history. I have to go back in history to write up with the good things
We've
about the
done
Dolphins.
the fish tank too. We've done the same thing. So what was a young OJ McDuffie, a young, fiery, competitive OJ McDuffie like to cover?
He was great, because when you approached him, as I remember, he was always available, and he always had something to say as far as being candid or honest with his feelings, and he answered questions, and really that's all you ask for. In my role, guys being available, and if they want to talk, they talk. If they don't want to talk, they say, I'm not going to talk. You can do whatever you want. But OJ was a pro. He thought that came with, as I remember, that came with the job. So he was one of the great guys to cover.
And Seth, if I could jump in real quick, I'm sorry. Juice, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was actually training that you got in college, and I thought that was brilliant, and that should be for every potential professional. If you could talk more about that.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. We always Joe Paterno made us take Speech Com 101 as freshmen. Right away, we weren't allowed to be in front of a camera, in front of a microphone, or anything until we took that Speech Com class. And after that Speech Com class, he'd reassess, reevaluate the freshmen and see how they would handle, being in front with the media, being in front of the camera, being, on the microphone.
Wow.
And so that Joe always talked about, I don't want you to embarrass yourself, your family, or the university. Those are the three things by getting up there and not speaking. Not everybody speaks like eloquently.
OJ McDuffie.
I like using big words like mayonnaise all day. You know what I mean? Just another eloquently. It's a big word right there, Big Seth. I'm on fire right now. But
I will say, Juice, that to your point, that you knew how to talk to us and handle it. And I will say 98%, 99% of the dealings with pro athletes are good. You hear about, obviously, the flare-ups and all that, but I'm talking across all sports. Most guys are good and professional, and we try to be professional on our side, too, in asking unfortunate questions at times. But for the most part, everybody's playing their role properly, and once in a while there's a flare up, and that's part of it too.
I hear our guys a lot of times, Big Seth, and I hear these guys do interviews, and it shocks me to see how intelligent these guys are. I mean, not that they shouldn't be intelligent, but it's like a lot of guys when I hear these interviews, and Dave, you can vouch for this because you do it more than I do. Is that these guys are really, really smart guys,
yes,
big, monstrous dudes, but they're super intelligent compared to, I'm not trying to dog anybody I play with, but some dudes you just don't really want to get off the microphone because they were embarrassing themselves, their family, and whatever university they might have went to. You know what I mean?
The three that they didn't finish from? Yeah, I understand where you're going. All right, so that's pretty funny. Because, name names. Chad says name names. That's pretty funny.
They're bigger than me. They're all bigger than me.
This is a good point. And so he's already naming names just by saying that. So I bring this up because last season we started to hear the term hot seat. Chris Perkins, who's been in live here for a couple times. I know, Dave, you and I laughed. Perk had McDaniel on the hot seat like after the first half of the first game last year. and maybe it was for two. I don't know if it was for two.
Yeah, right.
But he went from being on the hot seat to now you've got national media predicting which game he's going to get fired after. And some people think it could even be as soon as after this Thursday game because there's now going to be this 10-day. I hate talking about people losing their jobs, especially in the middle of the season. And I know you and I, Dave, recently were talking about, where is the value of making a coaching change in the middle of the season? But what do you think about, like, how hard is that for a guy to go to work? And I know it comes with the territory. And I thought McDaniel's handled those questions really well. Like, I don't have time to waste to think about my future here. My job is to focus on what my job is. And I respect that. And I think he's right. But man, when that's hovering over and then they start naming who they think your successor is going to be as the interim head coach, and that person works for you in the moment, that has to create added pressures that the team doesn't really need right now when they're just trying to figure out how to get a W.
Yeah, I look, that's unfortunately it's part of the job, and we've been here before, right? I mean, a lot, unfortunately. The one that comes to mind is Joe Philbin. They put Dan Campbell in, and that was a good change of pace move as far as you went from soft to a real hardcore guy. Now, I'm not. What Mike McDaniel needs to concentrate on right now, and I'm sure he knows, is cleaning up problems. That was embarrassing at the end of the last game, the Patriots game. The offense, 2 delay of game penalties, 2 other pre-snap penalties in the last 3-18 when you're trying to win the game. And then you go to Indianapolis. So he's got things to clean up that he shouldn't find room in his mind to be sitting here thinking about the other things. The problem is it does sit on the team. People get the players get asked about the pressure on Mike, and so it is a conversation inside the team. But look, let's face it, it's been an odd start. You've had players only meeting after the first game. You had, Mike called out Zach Sealer in about as nice a way as you can, but he called him out. And then you had Frank Smith saying the play calling was, we need to run the ball more, and that's calling out Mike. So it's been a very odd start beyond the scores for the Dolphins.
Juice, what do you think about that? The players only meeting. I've been meaning it. We haven't talked about that. You and I haven't talked about it, not even privately. To have it after week 1, how many players only meetings were you a part of? So I think that's something else. Also, all of us on the outside, if we've never played for a professional sports team, we have a perception of what players only meetings are and when they occur. How many players only meetings were you a part of during your career?
Well, because of CTE, I don't remember exactly how many I had. But
too soon.
Way too soon.
Yeah, we won't. We don't know we got CTE until we pass, but we'll figure it out.
Right. So slow your roll.
My brain will be donated though. That's so just in case, my legal guy Chad, just know that I'm requested that my brain be donated for research. All right. But anyhow, I do recall there were a few. I just don't remember exactly when they were. We probably should have had a players only meeting after that Jacksonville playoff game, but man, we were all packing our lockers up after that one.
Nobody has them at the end of the season, do they?
It's all one-on-one meetings.
I think the players only meeting at the end of the season is whatever card game's going on in the back of the plane on the way home is what that is.
That's always pretty good. But you know what though? After week 1 is tough, man, because honestly, what was being discussed before that? Where was everybody at that you got to a point in week 1? Because usually, a players only meeting is talking about guys that are already being late, guys that aren't watching extra film, guys aren't doing this or that. That's what a players only meeting usually entails. Not that you didn't do good in the game. It's not the game it might happen, but there must have been something leading up to the game that led to players not going out there and performing that way. Especially when you had 2-week lead up to this game, 2 weeks plus probably leading up to this game, and they go out there and lay the egg they laid. I don't get how you have a players only meeting unless there's some dysfunction already going on amongst players, which is something we thought was hopefully a culture fix within this organization and within that locker room. So player only meetings, they're usually when you're playing well, or and then all of a sudden people are starting to slack off a little bit and you start losing. After week 1, that was hard to fathom that the team decided to have a player only meeting. I mean, yeah, they got embarrassed, but I mean, for a players only meeting, I think it's more like guys not going to Publix is what I would do, Big Seth, or and be in public, and I'll be watching extra film and make sure I'm ready for New England.
Right.
But I wouldn't think that you'd have the need to call a players only meeting. That was baffling to me.
Well, so yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. You spent the entire offseason talking about culture, right? We heard that word ad nauseum, and then we heard a lot about the players saying this is more player-led. Mike McDaniel's the first guy to say the power is in the locker room, right? The leader, there's this group of leaders and all of these things. And so to me, when you play that way, when you put that on film, which is as bad of a season opener as I could remember ever seeing, and you put that on film, and it's so bad that despite everything you talked about all offseason, you call that players only meeting. It's almost like you're telling me there's this divide between what the coaches are selling and what the players are or not buying. I don't know. It's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's almost a
Juice,
reset right there, man. It's like it's kind of crazy that that players feel a lot of times that's it too. Like F what the coaches are saying. This is what we got to do right here. You know, you know, coaches can only do so much, though, right, Big Seth? I mean, they
For
can only do so
sure.
much. There's nobody. They're not out there blocking. They're not tackling. They're not catching. They're not throwing. They're not, returning. They're not doing any of that stuff, man. But the biggest problem I saw was they didn't prepare any of our players to do all any of that stuff. They looked so bad that every phase of the game was like out coached or unprepared. I mean, uninspired, unacceptable. Larry Zonka, quote
Larry
unquote.
Zonka tweet.
You
That's
know what
right.
I mean?
At Larry Zonka.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy, man. It was crazy to me that's what it showed up. We're so pumped up. Look, I'm the biggest homer, as we all know, when it comes to this Dolphins team. And I saw some really good things throughout the preseason, watching some different things, different groups. The fact that the defensive line hasn't shown up is crazy to me. We'll talk more about that. But I was bamboozled, man, by the fact that there's no way I think we go into Indianapolis and get our butts whooped like that. There's no way in the world. And then that's when that meeting came after that game. It was like no way in the world that happens.
Juice, you told me something that was interesting, and I think this might play into it. Maybe because of how the preseason's set up right now, that they thought they were good because they were playing against each other, and they didn't realize that maybe they both weren't that great, right?
Well, but it's interesting
That's a
though,
good point.
Chad, because
Good point.
they
Yeah,
had
I get it.
3 practices that were joint practices, and they went to Chicago and really got kicked in the teeth. I mean, it was kind of shocking, and everyone talked about how Chicago didn't get the message. It was just supposed to be a thud up or whatever it might be. And then they go to Detroit, and there's reports coming out of Detroit that it was the worst practice that they had ever seen an NFL team have. Dave, were you at any of these joint practices that were on the road?
I wasn't, but I think yeah, I wasn't at those practices. But I think when you talk about Mike McDaniel now being on the hot seat, this wasn't just because of the first 2 games. There's been a slow build up over the offseason to what's going on right from the day after last season where he said, we're not going to have players late for meetings anymore. And and you're like, and I asked the question, why did you let them be late for meetings this year? For which was last season. So I mean, there's been a slow build of, we talk of culture, we talk of, reset and all this stuff of where are the Dolphins, and then you have to me, I can't get past the end of last game where they had this long timeout because Devon Achane steps out of bounds. Referees confer. Oh, he stepped out of bounds. We're bringing the ball back. There's a break.
TV timeout.
Then they come in and there's a delay a game. They have 13 men in the huddle. What is going on? We're talking under the hood now. We're not talking talent-wise. We're just talking, game preparation. Juice, the Friday walkthrough meetings where you go through situational substitution and, okay, everybody pay attention. What's going on in those type of practices where, and again, 2 delay a game penalties in the last 3 minutes, 2 pre-snap penalties, and we have a chance to win the game. So, I mean, this gets to, preparation more than talent, which is a whole nother issue with this team.
Yeah.
Well, so, and that brings me to another point, and I'll come back to, I just told Jake Jake was in the chat and he had a question, and it's a good one, and it's something that I had on the list here too. But you just said this thing about like Mike McDaniel's not on the hot seat because of 1 or 2 games, right? And then, or why are these things only happening now? You just brought up the miscues, the pre-snap penalties, the delay of games, and a big topic of conversation really for the last 4 years, but particularly since that New England finish, has been communication issues and the timeliness of getting plays in, breaking the huddle with 10 seconds remaining. It almost seems like the Dolphins are rushing to get the snap off every play.
Yeah.
And then this week, we heard from Mike McDaniel, we heard from Tua, we heard from Frank Smith. They all said that they conferred and that there is a solution now. They said they discussed that issue and there's a solution now. And that it's fixed. And so my question, maybe there's a lot of questions here, and I'm not trying to be hypercritical, but we're at where we're at. How is like that? That is not a new thing. This goes back to when we saw this issue where it really reared its head was McDaniel's first year, the game in Buffalo, right?
Skylar Thompson, right? Skylar Thompson waiting for the plays to come in,
so
and
that was an issue,
absolutely.
and so we thought, well, hey, it's not Tua, maybe it's Skylar, and maybe there's something breakdown there, and that was an issue then. It's been an issue since Mike McDaniel's been the play caller. I know there's been a tremendous amount of conversation about the length of his plays. Tua gave a really fascinating, Juice, and one of my favorite words that Juice likes to point out, fascinating answer to me that somebody said, well, isn't there just a number on the wristband? He said, well, is it a wristband call or is it a sideline call? Are they changing the substitution? Are the guys who are coming in not the typical guys who would run those motions? And all of those things, it seems like Tua, I heard somebody use the term traffic cop today. He's telling Tyreek, you got to play tighter. This one's not in motion. Now you got two young guys going in motion at the same time, and Tua's trying to stop. Like all of those things are happening, and we're just fixing it now. Like somehow since that New England game 3 days ago, we've come up with a magic solution. Is anybody else baffled by that?
Yes. Yeah. I've been baffled for a few years over, again, if a high school team is doing these, you're saying, oh, this will get corrected for next week because this is an issue that it's fundamental. It's fundamental football, right? But I've never seen it repetitively like this at an NFL team. And I do, part of me does feel for Tua in that regard, in that, I remember once talking to Troy Aikman when he was talking about Deion Sanders playing offense. And he said, this was after they both were retired. And he said, you know what I told them? I said, I'm not every play going to turn to Deion and say, you do this and you got to do this on this play. I got my own process to go through as a quarterback. And I can't be, for Tua's phrase, running traffic cop every play over who's doing what, and how many players we got in the huddle. So I do feel for Tua for that. And that gets just back to the organizational standards of, are they trying? I think what they're going to do is simplify things. Is just read between the lines. Have a couple substitution patterns this week instead of whatever the pages of them they had of late.
So Drew,
Dave, go ahead.
Well,
I'm going to say this, Dave, is that the hell with all these substitutions. When I was in the in the alumni suite, Big Seth, dropping names like I always do. You know what I mean? And I'm in there with Duper and Clayton, and I see guys going in and out. And I said, "You guys ever come off the field?" They're like, "No." I said, "We didn't either."
We've heard what Mark Clayton said.
Clayton said, "You better get out. We're gonna have 12 people on the field." He said, "I'm not getting out. I'm not coming off. We're gonna have 12 people on the field." I can't believe that there's so many guys that come in and out. For what reason? We played all the snaps unless it was like goal line, elephant package. These dudes come on and off the field. And all the confusion is there, man. That's like, it's amazing to me, especially, since we're on YouTube Live, I can say it, especially when it's nut cutting time, these dudes are off the field on the sideline. That's unbelievable to me, bro. That drove me crazy. It drives me crazy. And Duke and Clayton are saying, like, yo, I'm never coming off the field unless I'm injured. But these dudes come in and out, in and out, in and out. And then that's where all the shit goes wrong, man, for me. It drives me crazy, man.
Bo says Juice dropping names, saying ain't so. You're not dropping names when you're one of those dudes, okay? You're just telling us who you were with. All right, I'm going to go back to Jake's question earlier, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't find it in the chat here at this point. And while I'm looking for it, let me say this. Shout out to our guy, Alvaro Freitas at CasaBella Design Group for loaning me the CasaBella studios today. He not only gave me this great place, he set up. I got to start doing it, fellas. I mean, what could he hook me up with?
Greedy ass.
You got.
Where was our invite?
Next time.
Right. Thank you, Chad.
Come on, Seth. Big Seth.
You guys are welcome to join me next time.
Chad's in the middle of building this studio. I can't wait for Chad's studio to be
That's
done.
right. We'll bounce back and forth. It's so good. So Jake's question, and maybe somebody just put it up there. Basically, okay, if the Dolphins lose but look like they have improved upon mistakes and make the game competitive, how much does that move the needle of the confidence meter for the team going forward? And that kind of, my question was, this regime, when the season started, I think everyone said, look, Stephen Ross gave Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel another life. They need to win a playoff game this year, right? They got to win a playoff game to show that they, can't just get to the playoffs. They've done that twice. They've got to win a playoff game to be able to stay in the positions that they're in. Now, with where we're at, is that ultimatum still the ultimatum? Do they have to right the ship at 0-2 right now, all the way to winning a playoff game? Is there anything else that this fan base or Stephen Ross would accept based on this start? Is there anything else? And I'll pose this question to all of you. Is there anything else that this fan base and Stephen Ross would accept for Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel to remain general manager and head coach of the Miami Dolphins?
Chad, want to go first?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, the standard's a standard, right? Are we going to keep? I can't believe all anybody's talked about for the last decade. Win a playoff? Oh, can they win a playoff game? Can they win a play? This was when I started covering with Don Shula and Jimmy. The standard was the Super Bowl. Can they get to the Super Bowl? Are they approaching the Super Bowl? What can they? And now it's if they can just make the playoffs and win a playoff game. And that's the bar. And I'm like, oh. So yeah, look, now here's the problem. 0-3, only one team's ever gone from 0-3 to the playoffs in 2018, Houston Texans. So that tells you
it can be done.
The chances it can be done.
That's what it tells me.
We need that clip. You're telling me there's a chance. So
you're saying there's a chance. That's right.
But no, to me the standard is the standard, and you do not compromise on that.
Yeah, Dave, was that a 16 or 17 game schedule in 18? Probably 16 games.
Yeah, that probably was 16.
So there might be a chance. So there is a chance with the extra game.
Yeah, you got the extra game.
You know what I mean?
That's right. This is like week 2. This is really like week 2, Juice.
Exactly right.
Very black.
The first game was just a preseason game, y'all. We lost a preseason game, 33-8 or whatever the hell it was. That was only a preseason game, so it's still good. We're 0-1 in the regular season right now. But
that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, Big Seth, like we talked about earlier, man, playing against Buffalo is always going to be tough. And when if they happen to beat Buffalo, then there's going to be some optimism because you don't go into Buffalo and beat Buffalo.
And they haven't since Josh Allen's been a
That's
quarterback.
what I'm saying. I said if they happen, that's what the hell did I just say?
I'm not debating you. I am doubling down on what you said. I'm providing additional validation.
We know we don't beat Buffalo in Buffalo. We know this, man. But I think that if they're like, and somebody, the comment was there's no moral victories. There's no moral victories ever in the league. You got 17 opportunities every single year to make the most of it. 0-2 right now. Now we have a chance of being 0-2 in the division as well, and 0-3. There's a chance that these guys can go in there and shake it up a little bit. Now, will they? That's on them, man. Short weeks don't benefit anybody.
No.
They don't benefit anybody, So
right.
you always got a chance in a short week, especially when you got some guys that are hurt. There are a couple of defensive guys, Oliver and those guys that are hurt. I don't know how hurt they are because I didn't really look at the report. But hell, if they played on Sunday, they might have been able to make it out there to play. Who knows? I don't know what their injury status is. And Dave, you might be able to help us with that.
Yeah, Oliver's not making it. Oliver's not using the cast yesterday. Yeah, foot cast. So, and he's been ruled out. So
yeah, but if they played on Sunday, would he be ruled out? What is there?
Yeah, there you go. I don't know. I don't know how severe it is, but everybody's missing someone every game, right?
Well, hey, if they played on Sunday, would Darren Waller have a chance to play?
No.
Did you see how big that laugh was?
Silence and then followed by the laugh at the end. Hey, let me ask you this about Darren Waller.
Mystifying.
He has been declared out. He will miss his 3rd consecutive game after missing the entirety of training camp, preseason, all of that. I saw someone ask the question today, and it's a fair question. And again, you can't predict. Only the Dolphins really know, and certainly only Darren Waller knows to what, did the hip happen that practice he wasn't going to practice? Did he come in damaged goods? I don't know the answer, but maybe they could have put him on IR. And sure, people would have rolled their eyes. The guy starts off on IR, but would it have taken some of the pressure off? Like, of all the things they're dealing with, do we need to also hear as Darren Waller? Like, because every time he shows up on the injury report, everybody's like, mother bleeper, we're rolling our eyes again. If he was just on IR, then, a week from now, Barry can ask the question, how's Darren Waller looking? Do you expect him to be back? And those things could happen.
The whole thing has been mystifying to me. I mean, you sign a guy who hasn't played in a year. I'm on board. He's got a great backstory. Everybody, you root for guys like that, right? I mean, he's fought his personal demons but then when he doesn't practice, he barely practices, if at all, through training camp and preseason, and you list him as your starting tight end. And then the idea was Chris Greer said we're being smart by not practicing him because we don't want to get him hurt. And what's going to happen when you start playing? The fact, look, if he was a bonus add-on, I would say, okay, I understand what they're trying to do. They're taking a flyer. But when they traded Jonnu Smith, they didn't find a replacement. When they traded Jalen Ramsey, they didn't even try to get a replacement. So we can talk about, the desperation trade and all that. And if they had to trade Jalen Ramsey, I'm fine with that. Some guys don't fit, and it sure didn't sound like nobody on the team really wanted him around anymore. But you got to try to make a replacement for him. And when you trade Jonnu Smith and his 88 catches, so you didn't want to pay him $12 million. Okay, but you can't go. You got to try to find some replacement for him, and it can't be a guy who hasn't played in a year and can't practice.
It's fair. And it's.
I just never seen Big Seth. I just never seen somebody get hired off a relationship with a coach, man. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like,
you probably have, Juice, but just not that. It's probably hasn't been that loud.
Well, they might have got hired, but they weren't sitting at home for a year before that either.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, Jeff Saturday is going to be the coach of the Colts,
they got a relationship with a coach, but they were actually playing football, but not at the crib chilling. Then all of a sudden you get a call, and now all of a sudden you got a gig, and you ain't gigging.
Yeah, well, that last part, that's if he came out here and was just working his ass off, that would be a different story. And I know I've heard people say
he had that Club Med seat going on, man, on the sideline. That I used to love. I used to be
great. Get some free gear, right? Get all geared up. You got all the stuff.
That's that Kawhi Leonard deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, Mike said.
I think it was the Odell Beckham Jr. deal here too. Though we've seen this. We've seen this before.
We have definitely seen it.
You know this, Big Seth. I don't give Jimmy Johnson much credit for anything. You know what I mean?
No.
I do not. But I'm gonna tell you this: if you didn't practice, he was not about that shit. You know what I mean?
No.
You got to be out there on the field. You got to be out there working, man. If you ain't working, you ain't playing. And if you're not working or playing, then you're not gonna be here. And I respect that about him, bro. You know what I mean? That's what it's got to be. We've got Club Med. Like I talk about Club Med when I played, whereas I looked over on the other field and Marino and Fryer and Ingram and Keith Byers and Keith Jackson over there just running some routes on air while everybody else is over there grinding on the defensive day. You know what I mean? I think the whole team is in Club Med now. That was Club Med when I played. The whole team is in Club Med now, bro. And that shit don't work in the league. Who was it that said, was it the Detroit linebacker, Mr. Irrelevant, talking about they don't work like we work.
Yeah.
Bro, and let's fold that into Juice. Let's fold that into this whole idea of creating a new culture. And Chris Greer talking about guys staying after practice and working an extra hour and all this stuff. How does the Darren Waller being listed as the starting tight end when he doesn't practice fit into this new culture of work and camaraderie and that's, to me, there was just so many disconnections in this that I got lost about mid-August in it.
And Dave, also, you get so much side-eye, man. You get side-eye work. These dudes, don't tell me these dudes don't see depth charts. Don't
absolutely.
Don't see all that stuff is going. you got to have some. There's going to be some dudes that are side of like this dude is ahead of me, and I'm blah blah blah. You know what I mean? And all these opportunities. I had some weeks where I played with the Dolphins where I was targeted like 20 times in practice, and then get into a game and I don't get any looks. You know, I'm like, how the hell were they lying to me? Like, so all these dudes that sit there and they see that depth chart, and then they're like the ones that are out there actually playing. It's a problem sometimes, man. It really is. And I think, Seth, you had the right answer. If we've got a lingering injury, now, Dave, how's the IR go now? How far can you be? How's the IR work now?
Well, it's 8 weeks. I mean, if you're put on it, and or 4 weeks, excuse me.
4 weeks, yeah.
4 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, 4 weeks, and you have 8, I believe, 8 guys you can bring back across the season.
Right.
So
that would be the best way to do it, I think, man. I mean, we're already 3 weeks in, right?
That was my point. Yeah, I mean, he's already missed 3 weeks, and I think if he had been put on IR, there would have been criticism the moment he got put on IR, and then we wouldn't have talked about him again until it was time for him to come up. Yeah. Instead, and they probably didn't want to deal with that. They probably, because if he wasn't ready to go practice, and then all of a sudden you didn't want his first practice to be a joint practice, and then all of a sudden he can't, we're not going to hold him. We're going to wait until the second week of practice for the first week of regular season games. I'm sorry, the second day of practice, because we'll only work on short yardage and red zone stuff. And then in waiting for him to not get hurt, he gets hurt. Should have just put him on IR. Anyway, I'm going to move on from him. I will say there was some really great stuff in the chat just from the Darren Waller conversation. I think Mike Olivia said that I was more worried about the tight end room than they are. We know what that's a reference to. For sure. We got there was another one here. Oh, nah, Bo, I think Juice's mic is just fine. I think Juice's mic is working just fine here. Juice, you don't give credit to Jimmy Johnson for much. Bo says you got to give him credit for the amount of hairspray that he used. So that was a good one there. So some good stuff. Oh, and then you've never seen a guy get a job just because of a coach. Didn't Jay Cutler get $10 million because of Gase? So I guess we have seen it a couple different times.
Yeah, but like I said, I already preferenced that. I said that Jay Cutler was like, he was kind of sitting at home, but he was like out there. Waller was retired.
Yeah, you're right.
Done. He was chilling.
And Cutler showed up and played, whether he played well or not, and whatever. That's a whole different thing. And he did show up. He was ready to play. So, all right, I'm going to move on to the next thing. At the top of this show, I mentioned how the first 2 weeks have been rough, and Juice said, "Hey, this last game was better. I know the result wasn't good, but the last game was better." Seth, you got to admit that. I will admit it. Should we be encouraged by the fact that the Dolphins opened up their offense a little bit Sunday? Tua had 300-plus yards. Tyreek had 100-plus yards. He had his first 30-yard reception in a year. That was a big topic of conversation. Somebody did that research, and it's all anybody talked about. H-Chan, I think, has been one of the few bright lights on that offense. We had a Waddle sighting, right? Waddle was also, he caught a touchdown. He made a couple big catches. Of course, he's now ended up on the injury report, which I think happens far too frequently. Should we be encouraged by the fact that their offense did open up despite the ugly end to that game? Should we be encouraged?
Who asking, Big Seth?
Whoever.
Who are you asking, Big Seth?
It's Dave Hyde. Should we be encouraged?
No. I mean, should you be encouraged he didn't play as badly as the opener? Is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm saying. You had a quarterback.
Look, there are there things to be encouraged about? Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. They averaged 6.9 yards a play on offense. That they averaged 5.1 last year. So that they were getting the ball to their playmakers. That's sort of the encouragement you have. And from Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane is a great. They can put him anywhere. And he's become a great playmaker. Nothing new there the last couple years. But what I think is interesting is what they have is 3 guys who should be able to put pressure on the defense, no matter if they play that too deep or whatever. You could schematically come up with, do you put them all 3 to one side? Do you put 2? There are ways to do it. So yes, that is what you're encouraged about. Okay, now big picture encouragement. The defense didn't come up with really any more answers. Now they weren't dragged up and down the field all day like against Indianapolis, but look at the drives. Go ahead.
No, close. They were
Look at
close
the-
to being dragged up and down.
Yeah, close. I mean, yeah, the drives of New England touch 68, 70, 71, 83. I mean, and now you go to Josh Allen. So the point being,
Oh, we lost Dave. Did we lose him?
Yeah. He'll probably back, but he's right though, man. And I think that just touches on something else that we're talking about, Big Seth. You know, we were going to hang our hat on that defense, man. And I think no matter what the offense or how they might have performed this last game, that defense has been the problem. And it's not just our corners. The wide receivers aren't doing a lot again. We're not getting beat by wide receivers, you know, which is something that we thought that might be an issue. I mean, you know, that's not it. It's just the running backs. I mean, for one, Stevenson had 88 yards receiving as a running back. I mean, who has him on their fantasy team? They got to be fucking killing it right now. You know what I mean? I mean, Henderson, Hooper had the tight end had 38.
Here we go.
Diggs had 32. It's not
Let
the,
me
it's not
get
the
set up
that
here.
we've been talking about that have been the problem. It's been, you know, our front seven. Our front seven, like Dave was talking about, our defense has been the ones that we were going to hang our hat on, but it wasn't our corners. It was our front seven, and they're not doing shit right now, man.
Yeah, what's going on with that, Juice? Like, what are you seeing that's happening there with the front seven? Because it is, as you said, that was the expected strength, especially that pass rush, that defensive line, having all the, you know, all the edge rushers back. There was an expectation that these guys were going to wreak havoc. And not only has it not happened, it's been really rough for 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're not getting home, man. Period. Like, honestly, I watched so much. If we watch so many games, you see some of these other defensive lines that are so disruptive every single snap. And I see guys like Drake May sitting there having coffee. You know what I mean? A cup of tea, like chilling sometimes. I know we had the 3 sacks, but at the same time, though, man, you got a situation where we're counting on these dudes to be the disruptors.
Yeah.
You know, when your safeties and linebackers are making all the damn tackles, I know D-line don't make a lot of tackles sometimes, but man, our safeties are making a ton of tackles. Our linebackers are making tackles. Yep. It's puzzling to me because I thought that's where we'd be really, really good at. That's where we'd be really, really good at.
I got this. Don't worry, guys. We'll address it. Oh, I don't know. I got this. Don't worry, guys. We'll address it.
Hey, I'm back with you. Sorry about that. I had little technical problems on the home studio here.
Yeah, and I think we have a little bit of an echo, Dave. We're working on it, though. Yeah, and I think we have a little bit of an echo, Dave. We're working on it, though.
Okay.
Sounded great the first time.
Come on, Seth, fix it.
I can't. It won't let me, Dave. I think we might need you to log out and log back in. I can't. It won't let me, Dave. I think we might need you to log out and log back in.
Okay,
I'll
do
say it
that.
twice if you need me to. I'll say it twice if you need me to. All right, hold on. We got to mute you.
I love live shows.
We'll be right back.
Yeah. Seth would do a great job of, and Savak would do a great job of editing that out of there.
Oh, yeah.
But it might be funny, though, to a point. But,
yeah, what the hell? It's live, not even television, live streaming.
Yeah.
So fair points for sure. And I really wanted to ask Dave this other question, but you know, I don't want to ask it twice. So hey, I think we got a little bit
of defense too. That's like,
Jake said, I think we got a little bit of an echo. Thanks, Jake. in case we didn't notice that.
Jake from State Farm?
I don't know if it is, but if it is, we're excited.
He might work for State Farm. You never know.
So they have to get that figured out, and knock on wood, they're all healthy, which is exciting. Now, I know we were texting with somebody else, Juice. You know, Jalen Phillips has had 2 significant injuries each of the last 2 years. Yeah. I always say a lot of times when guys have an Achilles and/or an ACL, it's their second year back when they really return to form. Well, he's had back-to-back years, and we know he attacked his rehab like no other, and he looks great, but he doesn't seem like he's got that same, you know, he's not moving the way that we are used to seeing him move. And I hope that changes. I mean, God, if there's anybody that we root for, right, it's JP. Chubb has had a little bit of success getting home.
Yeah.
Zach Sealer, shockingly, we just haven't seen, you know, and I know some people are saying, oh, now he got paid. I don't buy that. I don't think that's who he is.
Not him. It's not his DNA.
That's who he is. And B, he didn't get paid till late into camp.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like he held out all training camp. He didn't hold out anything. He didn't miss a practice. He worked. So I think the guy prepared the way he's always prepared. But I don't know the reason why. I don't know if it's when he played next to Kristen Wilkins, he ate. When he played next to Calais Campbell, he ate. Now he's got young guys, and maybe it's a different opportunity. I don't know.
Yeah, we've seen the history of that, man. Guys playing opposite somebody that's really, really good. They eat, and then they get paid, and then next thing you know, they can't eat alone. You know what I mean? It's part of the game sometimes. Hell, as a receiver, of course, I count on somebody opposite me that can take some heat off of me. I ate when Irvin Fryer was like doing big things, you know. And then when I go into game plans where now I'm the guy, now other guys are able to eat as well. You know, Rondé was really good opposite me. You know, Lamar was really good opposite me. But it's only like, on third down, there's 2 or 3 guys that are gonna be eyeing me, and then Danny had a rapport with those guys, and it was great for us at that point. But I think the thing about Sealer is that I didn't get the whole Mike calling him out thing, but
that was interesting.
Numbers don't lie, man. Numbers are numbers, bro. This is a results oriented business.
Yeah.
Period. And but you're not affecting somebody else. If you're not making plays, at least you're helping somebody else make plays. You know what I mean? For the love of the game, things you're doing. You're taking 2, got somebody on one-on-one, they go and score. Wide receiver, taking 2 guys with him for another guy to have a one-on-one. I love Zach, and I think Zach is going to take it. Zach will never rest on his contract. Zach will never rest on his contract. He will.
Dave's back. All right, Dave, let me see if I can turn this echo.
Let me see if I can turn this echo.
Oh, it won't let me do it because we're recording.
You had to do it.
Dave, I wonder. Let's mute your mic when you're not talking. Yeah,
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to mute your mic. Let's see if that does anything. Is the echo gone? All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Dave, I'm going to ask you this question, and we'll all mute our mics. We were just talking about the defense in the front 7. I'm going to move on to this, and then I want to make sure after you answer this question, let's get to our I tried to tell y'all. All right. Now, who else am I getting? Oh, he came off mute. That's what it is. Hang on. I'll get you in a second. I'm going to ask you this question. We'll get to I tried to tell y'all, and we'll make sure we get to the legal zone with Chad Van Horn. We'll get everybody out of here. So, Dave, here's my question, and I've heard you talk about this on the radio, and you wrote about this. We've talked about everybody else. We've talked about the play calls coming in. We have not talked about the quarterback and the quarterback's play. I think there's been certain things that aren't necessarily his quote-unquote fault. Some of it might be play calls coming in late. Some of it might be him having to worry about getting everybody else lined up, which I know is part of his job. But if guys did what they were supposed to do, then maybe Tua could be the best version of himself. But you have said he's in the $50 million club now. The expectations are higher when you start to collect that check. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. We're going to all mute our mics. And we're not going to hang up and listen, but we'll mute and listen.
Yeah, first of all, sorry. You talk about I'm going to criticize somebody for technical issues and everything, and look at me. Okay, so but yeah, when you're in the $50 million club, you're expected to bail the team out on some days, put on that cape, and to be able to do that. And on Sunday, there were all sorts of, we've gone through them, the operational issues, but also Tua has Tyreek over the middle on the first time they have the ball with a little over 3 minutes left, and he sails the ball. And then you saw some of the Tua does some things really good. What he does is really good, his vision, his accuracy, anticipation, etc. But what he doesn't do, he's not an athlete. He can't move. He can't create plays. And you saw on Sunday what Xavier Howard was referring to when he says when you get him off script and he's got to create a play. Look at the last 3 plays. He's running out of the pocket. He's trying to do something, and he just goes out of bounds, in part because that's what he's been told from the organization. You got to stay healthy. I get it. 17 games. The other part is he's not a runner. He can't run. Look at the first 2 guys the Dolphins have played, Daniel Jones and Drake May. Now, they're not runners they're not running quarterbacks, but they can run. Daniel Jones ran for 2 touchdowns, and he had a key first down. Drake May ran for a 6-yard touchdown when he was flushed out of the pocket. And he had a 13-yard run. That's not Tua can't do that. Okay, and then my point again, getting back to the $50 million club on games like that where not everything's going right. You got to be able to bail the team out, and that's why you're being paid that way. That's why you asked for that contract. That's why Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel went and pounded the table for you to get that contract. And should he have gotten it? Well, he needs to win games like that to earn it. And so that really what it comes down to and now you've had 2 opening games. The opener, he had 2 interceptions and a fumble. And these aren't things that you want from the guy you're relying on. Everything starts with him. And sometimes the NFL is just a quarterback's league. And here they go up against Sunday. You talk about if to me, he's the best quarterback in the game going right now, Josh Allen, for all the things he can do. We can sit here and argue about, is it Lamar Jackson? Is it Patrick Mahomes? I mean, that's a good debate for another time. But the point is, all those guys have shown when the game's on the line and other parts of the team are faltering and the night's slipping away a little, they all make the play to bail out the team. And that's what I keep looking for in Tua.
Well, that's a fair point. There's a lot of fair points there. You talked about Josh Allen being one of the best. Tua just told us how good he is, and that's a whole other conversation where Tua talked about all the things that Josh Allen was better at than he is. I guess you appreciate his candor for sure. But no, I'm with you. Should he have gotten paid or not, it doesn't matter. He did get that contract, and so the expectations come with that. No doubt about it. All right, I'm going to keep moving here. I'm going to move in to one of our favorite segments now here on the live. It is the I Tried to Tell Y'all segment. I'm going to kick it off, fellas. I didn't last time, Juice, just so you know. I went last because I wanted to say that I tried to tell y'all that Mark Clayton deserves to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm going to stick on the positive note. I know we've talked a lot of things here that were negative or we've been critical. I don't think we've been unfair. I think we've been critical because that's just kind of the circumstances and where we're at. So, fellas, I tried to tell y'all that the Miami Dolphins needed to draft a stout left tackle in the second round of the 2024 NFL draft, and that's exactly what they did. I tried to tell you that Patrick Paul had a perfect opportunity because he got to come in last year. He got to learn from a 5-time Pro Bowl left tackle in Teron Armstead, who we knew at some point was going to let Patrick Paul play because Teron Armstead has never played a full season in his entire career. I tried to tell y'all that would help the Miami Dolphins in 2024, but it would really help them in 2025. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing. It has been rough. We know, we just talked about this for an hour, how rough it has been for the Miami Dolphins in the first 2 games. And that offensive line has struggled. We've lost 2 guys. We lost one guy 3 plays into the damn season. We lost another guy at the end of the first game, the entire right side. I hope they're not moving all the way down. I know Aaron Brewer was on the injury report, but it looks like he's going to play. But Patrick Paul's all the way on the left side. We don't want the injury bug to catch him because I think he's been one of the few bright spots, fellas. And I think I wanted to at least point that out. I tried to tell y'all why it made sense for the Dolphins to draft a left tackle, to draft Patrick Paul. And I think right now that Chris Greer and Patrick Paul are proving me correct. So that's what I tried to tell y'all.
Yeah, Seth. I hear you, bro. I like that was well written. I like that a lot. I try to tell y'all that wide receivers rule the world. They really do. And I'm not talking about Tyreek. I'm not talking about Waddle. I'm talking about Malik Washington. I'm talking about Malik Washington and what he does when the football's in his hands. Not mention the 74-yard punt return for a touchdown that should have won the game for us. Not to mention the fact that he only had, they had 3 carries for averaging over 7 yards a carry. But every time he gets involved, they find he does big things for this football team. My problem with this football team is they don't get him involved enough in the passing game. He could be that crutch that we don't have from a Waller or that we have from Jonnu whenever Tua needs a little bit of an opportunity. Not worrying about the guys on the outside, but a guy on the inside is going to get you some tough yards, kind of like this guy, number 81, O.J. McDuffie, used to do for this football team back
I
in the
remember that.
day, it might not get you a first down like I used to all the time, but it's going to put you in third and manageable a lot of times instead of these long times trying to get it down the field to the other guys. So I try to tell y'all that Malik Washington is the best player on that Dolphins offense because he does so many things. He runs the ball, catches the ball, he returns kicks, he does it all, man. So I tried to tell y'all, stop sleeping on number 6 because number 6 is the man on that football team right now.
There it is. OJ McDuffie goes wide out again, but I'm with you.
I'm always gonna go wide out. I'll find a practice squad wide out next week.
They might need to. Well, you know what? The wideouts have done their job so far. All right, let me get all the mutes going. Let's see if Dave Hyde. I think Dave Hyde tries to tell us something all the time, but let's see what Dave Hyde tried to
stick to one that's in my head this week, which is I try to tell you the front 7 of the defense wouldn't be the problem. The back 7 would. And I'm going to stick with that. They're playing 2 rookies a lot in the secondary, and bless them for that, and you overlook rookies growing, and you hope that in, week 3, by week 7, week 8, a lot of the mistakes they're grown into the player they need to be. But you're going to live with mistakes and questionable talent. And again, I get back to, you want to trade Jalen Ramsey, that's fine. I get why they wanted to trade him. He has not missed. But when you trade him, you got to replace him with somebody. You're not going to get a number 1 cornerback like him, but you got to get a serviceable veteran who can hold everything together. And they didn't. And so when Cater Kohu went down, that was a severe blow because now they're pulling guys off the waiver wire and everything. And beyond that, Tyrell Dotson, I'm not really sure what's going on there. I'm looking at some of the sites he's grading out high, but I'm looking at where teams are attacking in the middle of the field and putting him in challenging positions. And so my point is that back 7, I still believe in the front 7 that if they can rush, the problem is they've been falling behind right away in games, and so offenses can go wherever they want. But the back 7 to me is an issue, and I tried to say this could be a real problem for this team.
Well, there it is. That's I tried to tell y'all. Dave tried to tell us. Unfortunately, the problem's been in the front and the back, side to side, Dave. But we'll see. We'll see how that evolves. He did try to tell us that. We're going to move into the Van Horn Law Group Legal Zone. Get your legal questions in the chat. Let me open the chat up real quick. Dave, let me say this to you. Chris Perkins, the last 2 weeks, nobody asked more questions of Chad Van Horn. Chris apparently is in some heated legal issues with his. I wouldn't be surprised if he jumped in the chat. Some heated legal issues with his condo association, and he was so excited to have his own attorney here, his own representation right here on Fish Tank Live. So, if you've got any issues, certainly you can ask Chad if you have any questions as well. Let's put it in there in the chat. Get your legal questions here for Chad Van Horn. I have a question for Chad, actually. Let me kick this one off. And I guess it's kind of remotely a legal question. The Kansas City Chiefs made headlines, not just because I think they're tied with the Dolphins at 0-2, aren't they? But they made headlines for these T-shirts they wore. If you guys saw this, they wore the free Rashee Rice T-shirts, and they're sticking up for their teammate, and I get it. But when you've got an issue where a guy's driving his Lamborghini at ungodly speeds, and I think that I read there's weed and guns in the cars and all these other things, like that's an ongoing legal issue, Chad, right? Is it a smart thing for professional athletes, people of prominence, especially Travis Kelce, who's now in another stratosphere given his marital status, for them to be saying free somebody who's in the middle of a legal issue himself?
Yeah, Seth. And I think this, again, I don't want to hit too close to home because I know I did it last week, but I think there was a Dolphin player that wore a hat that said free somebody. And that went really poorly. And I know Dave knows who I'm talking about. Dave keeps all the notes. So yeah, when you're, and I'm all for standing up for your friends and family and being there for them. But in this social media age, and when there's ongoing legal issues and where people's lives could be at risk, I mean, it's a really, really bad look. And we know the league is looking at all this as well. So you're just looking for a reason to get fined or suspended. So definitely stand up for your guys. But if they're doing stupid things, sometimes stand up is pulling them aside and say, you can't do this. Like, you're putting our team at risk. So you can't condone things that are just clearly negative things. You can say, you got to get better. We're going to support you through this. But the whole free thing, like, no, you got to do the time because clearly you did the crime here.
Well, and this is the league where we've had player, unfortunately the situation in Vegas was tragic, and somebody lost their life. A young man lost his career, a promising career. So yeah, it seemed a little short-sighted from that standpoint. What is I don't know if this is the question. Oh, go ahead, Juice.
Yeah. I'll go next. Chad, I've recently I saw your Instagram post about Dame Dash. And I know that you've seen and represented a lot of celebrities when it comes to the bankruptcy, but I also know that a lot of people think that bankruptcy means people are broke. You're really not necessarily broke when it comes to that, especially guys like that. But they're trying to do what? They're trying to reorganize, for one. I get it, but they can also get rid of some other debts.
Yeah, for sure. And a case like Dame Dash, obviously the connections that he has and the knowledge that he has, you can't take that away. So a lot of people that are in that situation are trying to get the pressure off of them because they have so many lawsuits. Chris Brown, he was in litigation with Chris Brown. He's in litigation with a lot of different people. And what bankruptcy allows you to do is get that pressure off of you, allow you to reorganize. And he came out and he said, all right, time to get to work. And that's really what it is when it comes to bankruptcy and reorganizations. It gives you that fresh start. It gives you that ability to concentrate on what you have to do, because obviously, Dame Dash made a lot of money in his career and he's capable of doing a lot, but it's hard to be successful in anything whenever you're always concentrating on going to court, dealing with phone calls, dealing with litigation. It's hard to be successful. So I commend him for saying that. Hopefully that case works out. But it'll be an interesting case to follow.
All right, we got a question in the chat here, Chad from Laverne. Hi, Chad. If I only have $8,000 in credit card debt, is bankruptcy my best option?
Yeah, so it really just doesn't depend on the debt. It also, you have to take into consideration your income, because I've met some people that make millions of dollars a year that are truly broke, like can't go and get McDonald's because they have child support, they have alimony, they have taxes, they have all the money coming out of their check. So $8,000, generally speaking, I would say let's try to negotiate that $8,000. But if clearly you're struggling to put food on the table, pay your rent, then bankruptcy may be an option. So you really have to take into consideration your disposable income and your debt whenever you're making that bankruptcy decision.
Good stuff, Laverne. There you go. And then I think the legendary Savak actually has a question for you. I don't know if he's got a condo association question.
My man
Savak has a question for us. He's got to come off of mute, though. Come on, producer.
Hey, you're the one that muted me.
I muted everybody because otherwise Dave Hyde's going to talk to us twice.
But yeah, I was just curious. No condo association issues, but I'm curious if you might know, can NFL players stipulate in their contract like no Thursday night games, or would they just be steamrolled by the league and the CBA?
Man, those collective bargaining agreements. Now, I don't even know who's negotiating the CBAs right now. So that's something that Dave needs to bring up, because I don't even think they have a president right now because they're spending too much time in South Beach in 11.
South Beach gets everybody. That really should have been what we started at the top of the show. How many careers is South Beach?
Right. But yeah, all of that's in that CBA, because obviously you can't have your best players sitting out Thursday games, and obviously the NBA had that issue as well, so they had to go back to the bargaining table, because I think Greg Popovich was the one that started it, saying that Tim Duncan's not playing tonight because he's old. So So yeah, so that's a CBA issue, and Amazon Prime, you know, they're paying way too much money to have some of the stars sitting out,
Yeah, you
and at the end of the day, you know, money talks. Yeah, right. Just
That is for sure. So, all right, I'm going to give Dave Hyde a chance if he does have a question about Chris Perkins Condo Association or anything else. And Dave, if you don't have any, that's okay too. Let me take you off mute.
Well, first of all, I was at that San Antonio game when Popovich sat 4 starters against the Heat, and I was there, and nobody knew what was going on. Like, what? It was like a new world. Like, you could not believe he did this. So, but my question, because I'm fascinated by the Christian Wilkins saga, the ex-Dolphin, he's owed $32 million, I believe, by the Raiders, who say they're not going to pay. I'm not sure if you're up to date on this over what happened, but what's this going to be decided by? I don't really understand. The Raiders say he didn't follow procedure or consult in doing it. He says he did. How does this get resolved?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what's in the agreement and what happens with the NFL in general is there's arbitration. So everything goes to arbitration, which is more of a black box, and that's why they want it that way, because they don't want you just going to, you know, Miami-Dade court or the local court where everything is public record. And what you'll generally speaking see, especially something as big as the NFL, first they're going to hit you with civil procedures. So did you follow the procedures that were laid out? And most lay people are not going to, because they're going to try to catch you on that one technicality that basically ruins your entire argument. So you could be 100% right in everything, but that one little piece, you didn't file this in time, you didn't notify that on time, and then it doesn't matter if you're right on everything else. So that's usually what it hinges upon. If you did follow procedure, then you actually get to the meat of the argument. So that's why you see so many of these settling, because obviously with $30 million on the line, if it's all or nothing, you're going to want to be able to take maybe 10 million, 15 million guaranteed, instead of leaving it to the arbitrator to decide whether it truly is all or nothing because you didn't file that notice on time. But that's why, you know, these players who have to focus on their craft, that's why you need the good agent. That's why you need the good lawyer that really pay attention to this. So it really isn't on the player, it's on their representatives to make sure that they're following every little detail of that agreement and those procedures.
But Chad, you know, the NFL has way too much control over everything. They don't have any overseers. They really don't, man. They're the judge, the jury, you know, they're all that when it comes to any of this stuff, man. So it's going to be a tough battle for him to get his money, because they can say whatever, because I know for a fact that the people within the organization are going to back the organization and not back the player.
Well, and the other thing, you see this all the time. I mean, the NFL can drag this out forever, and it truly doesn't matter to them at the end of the day whether they win or lose. So it's their goal is let's drag it out forever, and let's have the player give up eventually, because when you're living this day in and day out, it's stressful. For the NFL, it's just the cost of doing business. But for the player, it's like I need that money and I want to move on. And so the longer that it goes, the benefit to the larger organization in general. So the NFL, by stretching it out, it's to their benefit, and then the player may eventually just say, you know what, just give me a third, give me whatever. I just want to be done with this.
Yeah, that league counsel on staff can just sit there and work you, and they're very well compensated. All right, one last question. We're going to get everybody out of here. Bo said, do NFL teams really do enough to educate players with monetary knowledge? I think this is a great question, especially for an attorney who is an expert in bankruptcy law. Chad, I don't know how many, and you don't have to get into it, and certainly not names, but my guess is you have worked with people that, you could find out whether or not they did get the education. And look, sometimes people are educated and they still find themselves in tough circumstances. That's a reality. But from what you know, I don't know how much you've done work with NFL player programs or what have you. Do you think teams are doing enough to educate players on how they should manage their finances?
I can tell you that they've gotten better, and there's more organizations that are focused. There was, I think it was an ESPN 30 for 30 that came out that talked about bankrupt and what percentage of NFL players were filing bankruptcy. So I think they're getting better, but they're still not there. I have worked with many players as far as working with their credit score and teaching them finances. And the number one thing the NFL could do, and it's difficult, is really filter out the bad actors, the bad financial advisors, the bad lawyers, the bad agents. It's hard to identify them, but those are the ones that really should be paying attention to this and getting players set up for future success. Juice always says, I think the average career is what, 3 to 4 years max. And how long, Juice, do you have to be to get the pension and get the benefits?
Oh, I might have you on mute, Juice.
Sorry.
Oh no.
3 and 3. 3 years, 3
Okay.
games. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of those players, you're used to getting that. Even if you're getting the minimum contract, you're getting significant 6-figure salary that you could put away and really set yourself up. But unfortunately, these players have to concentrate so hard, especially the ones that are on the minimum deals, and the new players, they have to concentrate on their craft. They don't have time to be meeting with financial advisors, lawyers, and whatnot. So that makes it even more important that you have the right people around them. So I do it all the time. I do pro bono work, just talking about how to identify who's really looking out for you, what to do with the money. And the NFL, I believe, can do a lot more. And I think it would benefit the league in general, and specifically the players, especially the shorter term players, because obviously the Patrick Mahomes of the world, the Tuas of the world, they're going to be completely fine. But it's the ones that are those fringe players, the practice squads that are being brought up. If they were taught where to put that money in early, they can really set themselves up for long-term safety. But it's hard to tell that to a 21, 22, 23-year-old that's making hundreds of thousands, if not a few $1 million a year, because what that confidence that got them to the league is the one that is going to also backfire on them, where I'm going to make millions forever. My next contract, going to be 10 million a year. And unfortunately, we're talking about the 0.01% best athletes. So they've done better, but there's certainly some room to grow there.
And I'll tell you this, Big Seth. I'm going to tell you this. That's a great question about the guys and the money. NIL is giving these guys a head start on financial literacy. I know for a fact that Penn State, these guys that make this money, they go through financial literacy classes. They pay their taxes on it. They learn all this stuff ahead of time, and they try to set them up in directing that money, because a lot of those guys aren't going to go pro, but they've got this money that they have an opportunity to build something from. So NIL is one of the things that, everybody's been fighting against it, but it's one thing that through Penn State that is, taught guys financial literacy. Because last night I joked about, and Dave, how you might like this, I joked about the fact that I got $1 million signing bonus, but then when I got my check, it was $600-something thousand because I didn't know anything about FICA. I knew nothing. I said, well, who the hell's FICA? You know what I mean? And that's what I said in that thing. And then if I was at Penn State, I would know who the hell FICA. If I was getting NIL money at Penn State, I would know who FICA was by the time I was negotiating my signing bonus for the Dolphins, and I'd ask for a lot more because I knew how much FICA was going to come from.
There you go. Great questions. That was the Van Horn Law Group Legal Zone. Chad, thank you for doing this each and every week for us. I did miss the Chris Perkins questions, but maybe we can get them next time. Dave Hyde, can't wait to see what you have to say. I imagine a lot of it will be determined by what the Dolphins give you to write about, but we look forward to it. We hope we can have you back in here in the tank and the Fish Tank Live. Really excited to see what you've got in store for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun. Hopefully I get to use some good adjectives after Thursday night's game, and not retreading some of that I've used for a while here.
We can all only hope. So that was Fish Tank Live. Savak, great job getting things done. Juice, always the man. Got you a little fired up early on, but it was great to have you back. I love Mark Clayton, but I need my partner here in the tank.
I'll make sure I wasn't making it. Yeah. Bro, I was jealous, and I was in mourning, but I'm back. I'm still not as happy as I want to be, but I will be. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but when will that happen?
When the Dolphins win a fucking game, man.
We will find out if Juice will be happy in about 24 hours. We'll see how he's feeling. Fish Tank Live. We'll catch you.